What's the key to a good keynote? Well, the story is the key. You have to have great stories to connect, and then great content, analogies, and data to support your story. I truly believe that stories are the best way to influence, teach, and inspire. And I love how a story can contain multiple meanings and effectively convey some really complex ideas and earn the audience's trust. Well-crafted stories delivered professionally create a sense of connection. And more than that, a good story creates some familiarity and that trust, and it allows a listener to enter the story where they are. It makes them more open to learning. And the research is really clear around this. Stories are remembered more accurately and remembered longer than the data sets and the bullet lists, long after you leave the auditorium. If you want to really influence, change attitudes, or inspire, impart wisdom, you need to tell a great story.
Resilient. You're more resilient than you know because you're the folks who have to handle everything when it doesn't go as planned, be strong, keep everything moving forward. And that's what resilience is. And some of you might be thinking, oh my gosh, why did I get into this? Can I keep going? Am I in the right spot? Well, I'm here to tell you, I believe you're exactly where you're supposed to be. And that's what we're going to talk about today. Just hearing these things makes me stressed. So what we're going to look at today is how to cope with the stress and give you some coping skills. So some of you probably have many of these, but I'll share some that really have worked across many industries and in many ways, and I think will work really well in this industry. And I'm going to give you a framework to handle anything that gets in your way. And we're going to start right here. This is the Angel Oak in Charleston. Have some of you been there? Oh, gorgeous, right? The Angel Oak is more than 400 years old. 400 years old. It has withstood fires and floods and wars. Think of all the things that tree has seen. For those of you who haven't been there, it's 27 feet around. You could park a car behind it and you wouldn't be able to see it. That's how big this tree is. Anybody play tennis? Yeah, so you could, if you planted this tree in the middle of a tennis court, it would shade that tennis court, and then you could put a tennis court on each side of it, and its branches would shade all 3 tennis courts. That's how huge this tree is. And when I stand in front of it, I think to myself, how did this tree get to be this? At some point, hundreds of years ago, it was a seed in a field with probably thousands of other seeds. How did that one seed become this? Was it a special seed? It had to dig down and get to the water. It had to bend its branches and get to the sunshine. It had to beat out all the other trees to be this hundreds of years later. Plants are resilient. That's an example of being resilient. It's what lasted all those years. Now, humans are this way too, and some of you will know who this is. Humans have this same type of amazing stories. Who knows who this is? Young black woman, young black girl born into poverty. She grows up, she's molested as a child. She gets pregnant when she's 14. You guys know she's pregnant when she's 14, somehow goes to college, somehow gets her dream job, gets fired from her first TV station because she's too emotional. Oprah. How does Oprah become Oprah? She goes on to do a magazine. She goes on to have her own network. She continues to grow and be this amazing force in our world. How does Oprah become Oprah? And does it ever get easy as you continue to grow and bend your branches and take on new things? At what point, shouldn't it get easier? Or should life give you a break at some point? Because we all feel like it's getting harder and harder and faster and faster. Well, I'm here to tell you, it doesn't get easier. It's not the world that's getting harder. It's the people in this room who chose to do hard things. We choose to do hard things. You're here. You're taking your afternoon to come be here and network and learn and do more because you want to do hard things. You're wired like this. We're the kids on the playground. Who remembers these? Oh my gosh. Well, here in South Carolina, I grew up, I was a little kid down in Florida. I was in Orange Park. You remember you'd jump on and it would burn your whole ass, the back of your legs would fry, and you get off and your hands would smell all funky from holding on. Yeah, but we would jump. We're the kids who jumped on the merry-go-round, and we went around and we held on tight. And then there was the one bully who would push it faster and faster and stomp your fingers or whatever, and everybody would fly off, right? And you'd end up in the dirt, you'd fly off. And then we weren't the kids who stood on the side. We jumped on. And then what happens when it's slowed down? You jump back on again, didn't you? Yeah, we are in the game. I think of everyone in this room, people who come to events like this, you in this industry, you in the middle of this right now, as high achievers. You're wired like this. You're a high achiever. And here's how this high achiever success cycle works. Because you want to be successful and you continue to be successful and you're trying to be the Oprah in your space and you want to be good at what you're doing and be part of something bigger and you have goals out there. So how many of you have ever, how many set goals? Set goals? Write them down, set targets for the year, vision boards. Any vision board people out there? Yeah, put the vision board. So we have a vision of where we want to go. Well, here's what happens. So we set a goal, their vision board or goal or something, want to lose weight, all the things. We set the goal and then we learn some stuff to figure out how to do it. Okay, if it's like maybe I should do keto, or maybe if it's, you've set a big target for this year, maybe I need to come to this event today and up my game. Whatever it is, you learn. So we're in the learning phase. And then you try some things, figure out what works and what doesn't, because it's not all going to work the first time. And then once you figure out what works, you get at it, you work. You do the work because you want to get to that goal. And it gets hard, so you have to persist, be persistent and stay at it when it gets tough. And then towards the end, there's always that moment where that's where grit comes in, because you really want this goal, to buy this new car, to buy this new house, to lose this weight. You stick at it because you want it. You go through the grit. And then you know what happens? You achieve your goal. And you get it. You get the house, or you buy the new car, or you take the vacation, or you lose the weight, or whatever it was. You hit your target. You sold the number of houses you were going to sell, and you made the number you were going to make for yourself, and you hit that target. And then you know what you do? You set a new goal. And you go around again, dogs. This is how we work. This is how our brains work. This is how we've been wired to work. And we've done it since we were kids. And in our society today, we do it even more. And if you work within a group, you share your goals and you put those out there. And then everyone is trying to go through this wheel. And you're thinking, why doesn't it get easier? Because you keep setting new goals. That's not going to get easier. It's going to continue to get harder. So how do we handle that when we still want to have this success? How do we handle it when we have something go on and get in our way on the way to that success? Now, the adversities, the things that don't go right in our lives, the buyer getting a divorce in the middle of your thing, those diversities, I call thises. These are things that get in the way of our goals, right? So you set your big goals, you're doing that, and there's some point in there where you just something happens. And now there are big thises. Let's take it out of our work and think of our lives right now. There are big thises in our lives that take our life in whole new directions. This is the capital T, capital H, capital I, capital S thises. This is a divorce. No one gets married and plans to get divorced. The future is going to be different after a divorce. This is a death of a spouse. This is the death of a child. This is losing your job. These are big things that, you had a plan, you're going down this road, and something big changes, and you take your whole life in a new direction. And your goals sort of have to change because you can't just get back on the path you were going down. And then there's the capital THISs, with just a capital T. These things sidetrack us for just maybe a week or a month or a few months of our lives, of our stories. And these can be, this happened to me a couple of years ago. My mom had a fall. So I'm in the middle of a busy season. I'm traveling, I'm doing my thing, and I have to cancel everything and do everything. So I have to be there for my mom, who's 89 years old, and help her through this. This could be you get in a car accident. You can't go on with the plan that you had for the day. You have got to get your car fixed. Maybe you're injured. Maybe you're in the hospital. Maybe you're in a boot. You get injured at your busiest selling season. You got all these showings and you get a boot on your leg, and you can't do things as quickly or as easily as you thought you were going to be able to do them. That's a big this with a capital T. And then there's the little thises. This is just the stuff that comes up every day. These are the things that happen. This is you're walking out the door and you're all dressed to go do it, and you spill your coffee on yourself and you have to go change clothes. This is you're in the middle of a showing or in the middle of something and your kid's school calls and you're trying to do 5 things at once. These are things that come up in our lives that we just have to manage and get to the other side of. But they don't change the trajectory of our lives. They just take time and energy and mental space that we could have been doing and using this time and energy and mental space to get to our goals. But now we're off doing this other thing. See how that works? And if you work with another broker, you've got your thises and that you're dealing with, and then you got their thises that you're dealing with, and you got the buyer's thises and the seller's thises. You got 4 people with stuff coming up in their lives that's keeping you from a closing, as one example of a target that you have out there. So all these different things are working against you getting to your goals. They're working against you, like you're just trying to get to the next thing. And it's stressing you out, and it's taking your energy, and it's taking your mental health with it, because so many things go on, because it's not just yours. There's things out of your control. That's an example, a really simple this that comes into your life. And these will come up over and over and over. How much energy you spend on this, how much time you talk to other people about it, how much time you spend trying to do a workaround or trying to explain to them that's not how things work. That is up to you. So the thing that came up may not be in your control, but how you react to it very much is when something like that comes up. And they add up day to day. So this is a little this. There's 10 of them in your day on a bad day. Maybe there's 1 on a not so bad day. But how many people have a day where you wake up in the morning and you have a plan for the day? You're going to get so much stuff done. And then you get a phone call, sidetracks you in one direction. Or your kid comes and needs something, sidetrack. Or you get out and there's traffic. We're just trying to get through our day, and all these little things are just keeping us from where we want to go. How do we manage the stress of that? And actually, it's amazing. I think we ever get anything done when you add all these thises up. And if you work in a team of people, or if you work with another realtor, like I said, or a broker, and all the people, the attorney for the closing, all these people could have other things coming up. So they all have to be lined up. So how do we get past that? What's the key? What's the key to managing the stress and moving forward when things do not go as planned? When you have a plan for your life, and it just clearly is not good, the world has put a blocker in front of you, or the world has a different plan. I always say it's like you're driving along and the GPS says recalculating route, like in the middle of your day. I use Waze sometimes, and I kind of like will put on some accent there. So at least they're going to say recalculating route in my head. I get a little entertainment out of it. So the world says recalculating route. How do we handle that? If we just knew the key. So how do you find that answer? Well, maybe we should talk to someone who's been through a lot of big thises to ask them how it's done. And that's where my story comes in. And I don't like standing here telling my whole story. My team put together this video. Some of you may have seen it because I think you used it in the promotional one. Nice work, Kristen. But I'm going to share that with you. So these are my big thises that led me on this journey.
From an early age, it was clear Nina would compete in gymnastics at a high level. At 13, she left her home and family in Florida to train full-time at an Olympic training center near D.C. Gymnastics was all Nina did, or wanted to do. She trained 6 to 8 hours a day. Her hard work paid off, landing her a spot on the USA Gymnastics team. She traveled the world, competing in Japan, Hungary, Germany, appearing on magazine covers as an Olympic hopeful, along with Bart Connor and Mary Lou Retton. But it was not meant to be. Nina did not make the '84 Olympic team. Although a tough blow, Nina forged ahead, continued her training, and became one of the top college recruits in the country, signing with SEC powerhouse LSU. Her freshman year, Nina shines, until one meet where the unthinkable happens. A career-ending injury brings her 14-year gymnastics career to an abrupt end. Nina switches gears, discovers a new passion, broadcast journalism, landing a news reporter job in Baton Rouge, and then hired away by the NBC station in Charleston, South Carolina.
Good evening, everyone. I'm Russ McCaskey.
And I'm Nina Sossamon. Thanks for joining us.
It's here Nina becomes an award-winning investigative reporter and news anchor, voted Charleston's favorite news anchor 7 years in a row, and is blindsided when she's an unexpected casualty of budget cuts. scooped up by the competition, Nina's television career continues to soar. She wins the Emmy for Best Newscaster in the Southeast. 15 years into her TV career, she's at the top of her game.
Join me now. Also in Charleston County.
Until one fateful afternoon, when Nina became the news. More on this later. Approached by the CEO of a fast-tracked tech startup, Nina was offered a job she couldn't turn down. She immerses herself in a brand new industry, reaching even higher levels of success. She's promoted to vice president as the company experiences explosive growth, leads marketing and communications during the company's highly successful IPO. And after 12 years on the leadership team, leaves to do this.
To do this. Now you get to see baby Nina too. To do this, to talk to folks about how you do that, how you can go through something that's very much life-altering or have a goal that's such a big goal and go in a new direction and not just survive, but actually thrive and do great on the other side. I found myself being the go-to person when I was working in tech. People would book a time on my calendar and I wouldn't even know. I had 200 people who reported to me and they were not somebody in one of my departments. They would just be sitting across from me in a little cube and I'd go, and what are we talking about? And they would say, oh, I'm going through this thing and I just heard you were really good at getting people through tough times. And it could be a young guy who has a new baby and is having panic attacks coming across the bridge. One time it was a woman who had lost her husband and she just didn't want to go on. All sorts of things. Sometimes I would come home and a man in my neighborhood, one of the friends would knock on the door and say, hey, and one time I opened it and there's a guy standing there with 2 beers in his hands and tears running down his face. He's like, Nina, I just lost my job. I don't know how to tell my wife. I don't think I can go home. I don't know what to do. Can you help me? I was like, come on in. And we walked in and we sat on the end of the dock and we had a big long discussion. And I knew I was helping. I'd become this person that people came to. But I was telling about books I'd read and research I'd done and therapists I'd talked to and the things that I'd learned and different modalities to cope with things. But I didn't have a way to do it repeatedly. And I wasn't sure exactly what I was saying. So I stepped away from work, from my corporate job, and did the research and wrote the first book, the one that's in your bags. And I have spent my time figuring out how I can put that out in the world to help more people get through very tough times.